Most videos throw random facts at you without context. This one doesn't. Every fact here has been picked for a reason, because it's real, rare, and worth knowing. No fake hype, no slow build-up. Just solid information you probably haven't heard before, delivered straight. If you're here to learn something that actually sticks, let's get right into it. A teaspoon of neutron star material weighs over 1 billion tons due to its extreme density. Neutron stars form from the collapsed cores of massive stars after a supernova. Their matter is so compressed that a single cubic centimeter can weigh about 400 million tons. This density results from atomic nuclei being packed tightly with neutrons under immense gravitational pressure. Glass is an amorphous solid, but it does not flow over centuries at room temperature. The common belief that medieval window panes are thicker at the bottom due to glass flowing over time is a myth. The uneven thickness is actually the result of historical glass-making methods, which produced glass with variable thickness that was often installed with the thicker side down for stability. In March 2000, an iceberg approximately the size of London broke off from the Antarctic ice shelf. This calving event occurred near the Ross Ice Shelf and was tracked by satellite imagery. Large icebergs like this can measure hundreds of kilometers in length and play a role in ocean circulation and sea level dynamics. Astronauts are unable to whistle inside spacesuits due to the low air pressure within the suit's internal environment. Whistling requires controlled airflow and pressure differences between the lungs, mouth, and lips. The pressurized atmosphere inside a spacesuit restricts this airflow, making whistling physically not impossible, but very difficult during extravehicular activity. Benin, a country located in West Africa, holds the world's highest rate of twin births. While the global average for twin births is approximately 1.3%, Benin's rate stands at roughly 3%. This unusually high rate is especially notable among the Yoruba ethnic group, where genetic factors and diet, particularly cassava, may contribute to the increased frequency of twin pregnancies. Around 41,000 years ago, during a geomagnetic reversal known as the Lachamp event, Earth experienced widespread auroras. The weakened magnetic field allowed solar particles to penetrate deeper into the atmosphere, producing visible auroras at low latitudes. These light displays, similar to the northern and southern lights, may have been seen globally. On Neptune and Uranus, high atmospheric pressure and temperatures cause carbon atoms to crystallize into diamonds. At depths of several thousand kilometers, methane breaks down, and carbon compresses into solid diamond structures, which may fall like rain through the ice giant's atmosphere. This phenomenon has been supported by laboratory simulations replicating planetary conditions. The Moon is gradually moving away from Earth at a rate of approximately 3.8 centimeters per year. This is due to tidal interactions between Earth and the Moon, which transfer angular momentum. Over geological time, this drift has influenced Earth's rotation and the length of a day. The effect is measured using lunar laser ranging experiments. The observable universe is estimated to contain about 100 to 200 billion galaxies. Each of these galaxies typically hosts hundreds of billions of stars. This estimate is based on data from space telescopes like Hubble and observations of deep space fields. The actual number may be higher as more faint and distant galaxies remain undetected. Peregrine falcons can reach diving speeds of up to 240 miles per hour while hunting. This makes them the fastest animals in the world. They achieve these speeds by tucking in their wings and entering a stoop, a high-speed controlled dive used to catch prey mid-air, primarily birds in flight. Sound travels approximately 4 times faster in water than in air. In seawater, it moves at about 1,500 meters per second, compared to roughly 340 meters per second in air. This increased speed is due to water's higher density and elasticity, which facilitate quicker transmission of sound waves. Sunlight takes around 8 minutes and 17 seconds to reach Earth. Light travels at a constant speed of approximately 299,792,458 meters per second in a vacuum. Since Earth is about 150 million kilometers from the Sun, this delay reflects the finite speed of light. The speed of light in a vacuum is exactly 299,792,458 meters per second. This constant, denoted by the symbol c, is fundamental to physics and appears in equations such as Einstein's mass-energy equivalence formula, E equals mc squared. Each second, trillions of solar neutrinos pass through the human body. These neutrinos are nearly massless particles produced during nuclear reactions in the Sun's core. Despite their abundance, they rarely interact with matter, allowing them to travel through planets and stars almost undisturbed. Their detection requires highly sensitive underground detectors. Venus is the only planet in the solar system that rotates clockwise, or in what's called retrograde rotation. Venus rotates slowly in the opposite direction of most other planets. Venus takes about 243 Earth days to complete one rotation. For millions of years during the Proterozoic eon, Earth's oceans had a greenish tint. This was caused by high levels of iron and sulfur compounds in the water, along with low oxygen concentrations. The presence of iron reacted with dissolved gases, creating a chemical environment that influenced ocean color before widespread oxygenation began during the Great Oxidation Event around 2.4 billion years ago. Tardigrades, microscopic invertebrates discovered by Johann Goeze in 1773, survive outer space and extreme conditions. They endure temperatures from -328 Fahrenheit to 300 Fahrenheit, radiation 1,000 times human tolerance, and decades-long dehydration via cryptobiosis. Found globally from Antarctica to deep-sea trenches, these water bears have been studied since the 18th century for their resilience. There is a very rare condition called Anton syndrome, in which a person becomes blind but is unaware of it and will even deny it. Their brain will generate false visual images, so they continue to believe that they can see. Butterflies detect chemical stimuli using chemoreceptors located on their tarsi, or feet. This sensory adaptation enables them to assess the presence of sugars or toxins in plant surfaces before feeding. First described in monarch butterflies and other Lepidoptera during the 19th century, this mechanism aids in selective oviposition and nectar feeding, enhancing survival through efficient resource identification and toxin avoidance in flowering environments. Cumulus clouds, formed through atmospheric convection and condensation of water vapor, can weigh over 1 million pounds. A single cloud occupying 1 cubic kilometer may contain over 1 billion condensed water droplets. Meteorologists in the 20th century quantified this mass using droplet density and cloud volume estimates, calculating a weight equivalent to approximately 500 adult elephants, suspended in air by updraft and thermal buoyancy. Raindrops reach terminal velocities of approximately 18 miles per hour due to opposing air resistance. Droplets between 2 and 5 millimeters in diameter descend slower than larger ones, with shape and atmospheric drag limiting speed. This phenomenon was quantified in 1904 by physicist Philip Leonard, who studied droplet dynamics, contributing to the foundational understanding of fluid mechanics and meteorological precipitation behavior. Human blood completes one full circulatory loop in about 60 seconds, driven by the rhythmic contraction of the heart, which beats approximately 100,000 times daily. This circulatory function, measured at 5 liters of blood volume, was first described by William Harvey in 1628. The system consists of arterial, venous, and capillary networks that transport oxygen, nutrients, and waste throughout the body. The human brain produces an average of 20 watts of electrical power, sufficient to illuminate a small LED bulb. This continuous energy output enables electrochemical signaling among approximately 86 billion neurons. The activity was first recorded using electroencephalography, EEG, by Hans Berger in 1924. Neural communication depends on synaptic transmission and action potentials, forming the biological basis of cognition and sensory processing. The human circulatory system contains an estimated 60,000 miles of blood vessels, including arteries, veins, and capillaries. This length is sufficient to encircle the Earth more than twice. The detailed anatomy of this vascular system was first illustrated by Andreas Vesalius in 1543. These vessels distribute blood and oxygen to tissues, remove metabolic waste, and regulate systemic pressure across various organ systems. A global estimate conducted by Yale University in 2015 concluded that Earth hosts approximately 3 trillion trees. This number vastly exceeds the estimated 400 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy, as calculated using Hubble Space Telescope data. The tree count includes boreal, temperate, and tropical forests, reflecting Earth's dominant terrestrial biomass and its central role in carbon cycling and oxygen production. Phytoplankton, photosynthetic microorganisms found in aquatic ecosystems, are responsible for producing between 50 and 85% of Earth's atmospheric oxygen. These unicellular algae utilize chlorophyll to convert carbon dioxide and sunlight into organic matter and oxygen. First studied in the 19th century, phytoplankton form the base of marine food webs and are essential to both biological carbon sequestration and planetary oxygen balance. Snails possess a specialized anatomical structure known as a radula, a chitinous ribbon lined with up to 15,000 microscopic teeth. This organ functions as a scraping tool, allowing species such as Cornu aspersum, also called common garden snail, to feed on algae and plant surfaces. Malacologists have studied radular morphology since the 1800s to understand gastropod feeding adaptations and phylogenetic classification. The Texas horned lizard possesses a rare ocular defense mechanism whereby it forcibly ejects blood from the ocular sinuses. The expelled stream, which can reach up to 1.5 meters, contains compounds that deter predators such as coyotes. This adaptation, documented in herpetological studies since the early 20th century, represents a physiological response combining vascular control and chemical defense. The skin of the hippopotamus secretes a red-colored substance known as hipposudoric acid. First chemically analyzed in the 1990s, this excretion functions as a natural sunscreen and antimicrobial agent. The compound absorbs ultraviolet radiation and inhibits bacterial growth, offering protective benefits in the animal's native freshwater habitats across sub-Saharan Africa. Despite its appearance, it is not blood-based. Happiness can trigger Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, known as broken heart syndrome. Intense joy releases adrenaline, weakening the heart muscle, mimicking heart attack symptoms. Identified in Japan in 1990 by Dr. Hikaru Sato, it often affects women over 50. Humans shed about 35 kilograms of skin over a lifetime, aiding indoor air purification. Dead skin cells, shed at 30,000 to 40,000 per hour, bind dust and pollutants. Research from the University of Copenhagen shows this reduces airborne particles. The stratum corneum, the skin's outer layer, regenerates every 10 to 30 days, supporting this process. The average person holds 13 secrets, impacting mental health. A 2017 study by Columbia University's Dr. Michael Slepian found secrets activate the prefrontal cortex, causing cognitive strain. Often about relationships or finances, secrecy increases stress, potentially leading to anxiety, based on data from over 1,000 participants. Babies are born with around 300 bones, fusing to 206 by adulthood. Ossification, completed by age 25, turns cartilage into bone, per Johns Hopkins University research. This strengthens the skeleton, with flexible infant bones aiding childbirth and skull fontanelles closing by age 2. Motor neurons can extend up to 4.5 feet. Located in the spinal cord, they transmit signals to muscles, with the longest reaching the toes. Neuroscience studies note axons, insulated by myelin, ensure rapid signal transmission. Damage to these neurons, as in amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, impairs movement, per research from the NIH. The stapes, the smallest human bone, measures 2.5 to 3.5 millimeters in the middle ear. It transmits sound vibrations to the inner ear, enabling hearing, per Gray's Anatomy. Part of the ossicular chain with the malleus and incus, it amplifies sound for auditory processing. Razor blades can dissolve in stomach acid within some days. Hydrochloric acid, with a pH of 1.5 to 3.5, corrodes thin steel, per University of Chicago studies. This acidic environment, meant for digestion, breaks down small metal objects, though ingestion risks perforation, requiring urgent medical care. About 1 to 2% of human genes come from bacteria, fungi, and viruses via horizontal gene transfer. Max Planck Institute research shows this ancient process shapes immunity and metabolism. For example, retroviral genes aid placental development, highlighting how microbial DNA, integrated over millennia, influences human biology. So if a virus can sneak into our DNA and stick around forever, surely you can let this channel sneak into your subscriptions. Hit that button before we evolve without you. The iconic Hollywood sign perched on the hills above Los Angeles originally read Hollywoodland when it was erected in 1923. It was constructed as a temporary advertisement for a new real estate development and featured 4,000 light bulbs. Over time, the sign deteriorated, and during a restoration effort in 1949, the city decided to remove the land, leaving just Hollywood to represent the entertainment industry. The superhero film Batgirl, originally planned for release in 2022, became the most expensive movie ever abandoned by a major studio. Warner Brothers had invested over $90 million into the project, reaching the post-production stage with principal photography already completed. Despite that, the studio chose to cancel its release entirely, citing strategic shifts and tax-related considerations rather than issues with the film's quality. Between 1912 and 1948, the Olympic Games awarded medals for architecture, painting, music, sculpture, and literature. Submissions had to be inspired by sport because nothing says peak physical endurance like competitive poetry. The events were discontinued when officials realized that most participants were professionals, violating the Olympic amateurism rule. The Groom of the Stool was an official royal appointment in Tudor England, most prominently under King Henry VIII. The role entailed assisting the monarch during defecation and maintaining related records. Established in the early 16th century, the office provided direct access to the king and considerable political leverage. Notably, Sir William Compton and others were knighted while serving in this role, underscoring its strategic importance at court. Between the 1940s and the 1970s, Yale University conducted a posture study in which incoming freshmen were photographed nude to evaluate spinal alignment and detect scoliosis. The project was part of a broader academic initiative led by Dr. William Herbert Sheldon and others, also carried out at Harvard and other Ivy League institutions. The medical justification was later questioned, as the program lacked clear consent protocols and produced limited usable data. Roman emperors such as Nero and Augustus reportedly practiced mithridatism, the gradual ingestion of sublethal doses of poison to build immunity. The method was named after Mithridates VI of Pontus, who used it to resist assassination attempts in the 1st century BCE. Ancient texts, including those by Pliny the Elder, reference the practice, though its efficacy remains debated. It presented complications during attempted suicides, when immunity delayed or prevented death by poison. Following the death of poet Percy Bysshe Shelley in 1822, his heart was removed after cremation and returned to his widow, Mary Shelley. The organ did not fully incinerate, likely due to calcification from tuberculosis. Historical accounts indicate she wrapped it in cloth and stored it in her writing desk. The heart was eventually interred with the couple's son in St. Peter's Church, Bournemouth, in 1889. Thomas Edison proposed hello as the standard telephone greeting in 1877 while testing his newly developed carbon microphone. Alexander Graham Bell had preferred the term ahoy, derived from nautical signaling. Edison's suggestion was published in a letter to the president of the Central District and Printing Telegraph Company. The greeting gained widespread adoption by the late 19th century, becoming the default opening for telephone communication globally. In 1843, Ada Lovelace published annotations on Charles Babbage's analytical engine, which included an algorithm designed to compute Bernoulli numbers. Though the machine was never completed, her work is regarded as the first published computer program. The notes, signed AAL, outlined loop structures and conditional logic, predating modern software theory by over a century. Lovelace's algorithm remains a foundational reference in the history of computing. In 1898, author Morgan Robertson published Futility, or The Wreck of the Titan, a novella describing the sinking of an unsinkable ocean liner after colliding with an iceberg. 14 years later, in 1912, the RMS Titanic met a similar fate. Both ships were described as lacking sufficient lifeboats and struck ice in April. While not predictive, the parallel details have drawn scholarly interest in probabilistic narrative coincidence. The first traffic light was installed in December 1868 outside the British Houses of Parliament. Designed by railway engineer J.P. Knight, the manually operated signal resembled a semaphore and was powered by gas. Less than a month after installation, a gas leak caused an explosion, injuring the police officer operating it. The system was discontinued, and traffic signal development paused until electric versions emerged in the 20th century. The Phoenicians developed Tyrian purple dye using the mucus of murex sea snails, requiring approximately 10,000 specimens to yield 1 gram of pigment. This process, dating to at least 1500 BCE, involved fermenting crushed mollusks under controlled conditions. The dye's durability and vibrant hue made it a symbol of elite status, particularly in Roman and Byzantine empires, where it was often reserved for imperial garments. Scientific observations suggest that snakes are highly sensitive to ground vibrations and low-frequency seismic waves, which they detect through their bodies and jawbones. In some cases, unusual snake behavior, such as increased activity or surfacing, has been reported before earthquakes, particularly in China and Japan. However, there is no scientific consensus that snakes can reliably detect seismic activity from great distances or predict earthquakes days in advance. Most evidence remains anecdotal, and further research is needed to confirm their potential as natural early warning indicators. Roy Cleveland Sullivan, a U.S. park ranger in Shenandoah National Park, Virginia, was struck by lightning on 7 separate occasions between 1942 and 1977. Each incident was documented, with Sullivan surviving all and earning a Guinness World Record for most lightning strikes survived by one individual. Meteorologists estimate the odds of this occurring at approximately 1 in 10 trillion, though atmospheric conditions in mountainous regions increase exposure. In Halberstadt, Germany, an organ performance of John Cage's As Slow as Possible began in 2001 and is scheduled to end in the year 2640. The piece includes century-long pauses and chord changes every few years. Earthen windows were installed to hear the music. If anyone remembers, it's still playing. Octopuses engage in extensive RNA editing, particularly in neural tissues, allowing them to modify protein production without altering their underlying DNA. This molecular mechanism, observed in multiple cephalopod species, enhances adaptability in variable environments, such as cold ocean waters. Unlike most animals, which rarely employ post-transcriptional editing on this scale, octopuses exhibit consistent, targeted recoding, especially in genes related to neural function and ion transport. The 2011 Tohoku earthquake in Japan, with a magnitude of 9.1, caused a redistribution of Earth's mass, shortening the planet's rotation period by approximately 1.8 microseconds. The quake resulted in over 15,000 confirmed deaths and triggered a tsunami and nuclear accident at the Fukushima Daiichi plant. Data from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory confirmed the shift using satellite geodesy and seismological models. Lake Superior, the largest of North America's Great Lakes, spans a surface area of roughly 82,000 square kilometers. That makes it larger than the entire land area of Scotland, which covers about 78,000 square kilometers. Uranus has an axial tilt of about 98 degrees, resulting in a near-horizontal rotation as it orbits the Sun. These anomalies likely stem from high-impact collisions during the early formation of the solar system, as suggested by planetary modeling studies conducted in the late 20th century. Killer whales exhibit unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, during which one cerebral hemisphere remains active while the other enters a rest state. They maintain mobility and breathing by swimming slowly in synchronized formations, surfacing for air at regular intervals. This sleep pattern has been documented in both wild and captive populations and is also observed in dolphins and certain bird species. The modern chainsaw was first developed in the late 18th century for surgical purposes. Scottish doctors John Aitken and James Jeffrey designed the device to perform symphysiotomies, a procedure that involved cutting through the pelvic bone to facilitate childbirth in cases of obstructed labor. The original design featured a hand-cranked chain with serrated teeth, preceding its adaptation into forestry and industrial applications. In the year 897, Pope Stephen VI convened the Cadaver Synod in Rome, where the exhumed body of Pope Formosus was placed on trial. The corpse was dressed in papal vestments, seated in a court, and charged with perjury and violating canon law. After conviction, the body was stripped of its garments and thrown into the Tiber River. This event remains a documented instance of ecclesiastical posthumous prosecution. The heart of a blue whale weighs approximately 400 kilograms and can reach a size comparable to a small automobile. Acoustic studies conducted by marine biologists have recorded the heartbeat from distances exceeding 3 kilometers owing to its low-frequency propagation. This cardiovascular scale supports circulation across the largest known animal species, with adults reaching lengths of over 25 meters. In Japan, cube-shaped watermelons have been cultivated since the late 20th century using rigid, transparent molds. The method was developed to facilitate efficient storage and display in retail settings. These melons are typically harvested before reaching full maturity, rendering them inedible. Despite limited practical use, they remain popular as novelty items and are frequently sold at premium prices in domestic and export markets. Butterflies, classified under the order Lepidoptera, possess compound eyes capable of perceiving ultraviolet light. This sensory capacity enables detection of patterns used in pollination and mating that are invisible to the human eye. Species such as the cabbage white and monarch butterflies rely on these UV patterns for flower identification and intraspecies signaling, a phenomenon studied extensively since the mid-20th century. The scent released by freshly cut grass is caused by green leaf volatiles, airborne compounds including aldehydes, alcohols, and esters. These molecules are emitted from injured plant tissues as a chemical defense mechanism. Research in plant physiology shows they serve multiple functions, attracting predatory insects to herbivores, signaling nearby plants to enhance defenses, and initiating internal responses such as tissue repair. The word robot originated from the 1920 play RUR by Czech author Karel Čapek. The term is derived from the Slavic root robota, meaning forced labor or drudgery. In the play, artificial humanoid workers are created to serve humans, eventually rebelling. The word entered the global lexicon as a general term for mechanical automation and synthetic labor. Octopuses, members of the class Cephalopoda, possess chemoreceptors on their arms, enabling chemical sensing through physical contact. More than 2/3 of their neurons are distributed within the arms, rather than centralized in the brain. This decentralized nervous system allows localized decision-making and complex motor coordination, as demonstrated in multiple behavioral studies conducted since the mid-20th century. Sloths, classified under the suborder Folivora, are capable of holding their breath for up to 40 minutes. This is achieved through a significant reduction in heart rate, often dropping by over 30 beats per minute while submerged. In contrast, dolphins typically surface for air every 10 to 15 minutes. The sloth's adaptation is linked to its low metabolic rate and semi-aquatic behavior in tropical rainforests. A parasitic fungus from the genus Ophiocordyceps infects carpenter ants, manipulates their motor functions, and compels them to ascend vegetation. After anchoring themselves to a leaf or branch, the fungus kills the host and emerges from the head capsule to release spores. During a rabbit hunt organized by Napoleon Bonaparte, a large group of domesticated rabbits intended for release overwhelmed the event by charging at the participants. According to several accounts, the animals were not properly dispersed, leading to an uncontrolled and unexpected confrontation. Seismic activity on the moon, referred to as moonquakes, has been recorded by seismometers installed during the Apollo missions. Some of these quakes reached magnitudes sufficient to fracture bedrock, with events lasting up to 10 minutes due to the moon's dry, rigid crust. Trees form symbiotic relationships with mycorrhizal fungi, creating underground networks often termed the Wood Wide Web. This system facilitates the transfer of nutrients, water, and chemical signals between individual plants, contributing to forest ecosystem resilience and communication. During the Second World War, the British Special Operations Executive developed an unconventional explosive device by filling rat carcasses with plastic explosives. The objective was to place these near enemy boilers, where they would detonate upon incineration. However, the operation was discovered before deployment. Sea otters exhibit a behavioral adaptation in which they hold forepaws while resting on the water's surface. This behavior prevents them from drifting apart due to tidal movement and maintains group cohesion during sleep. The human liver possesses a remarkable regenerative capacity. Clinical studies indicate that as little as 25% of a healthy liver can regenerate to full functional size, a capability attributed to the proliferation of hepatocytes and supportive stromal cells. DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, is a highly compact data storage medium. Research has demonstrated that 1 gram of DNA can theoretically encode over 200 petabytes of digital information due to its molecular structure, enabling dense, stable, and long-term storage of binary sequences. The name M&M's originates from the surnames of its founders, Forrest Mars and Bruce Murray. The candy was first produced in 1941 through a partnership between Mars, Inc. and Murray, son of the Hershey executive. The collaboration ensured chocolate supply during wartime rationing. Each candy's hard shell allowed it to resist melting in high temperatures, a functional design for military use during World War II. Goldfish possess the cognitive ability to distinguish between human faces. A 2016 study by the University of Oxford and the University of Queensland demonstrated that goldfish could correctly identify individual human images with over 80% accuracy after repeated exposure. These fish are also capable of associative learning, enabling them to perform simple tricks through reward-based training protocols involving repetition and stimulus recognition. In ancient China, moldy soybean curds were used to treat skin infections and wounds. This practice dates back over 1,000 years and utilized fermented glycine max, which naturally produced antibiotic compounds. Though not chemically identical to penicillin, the technique shares similarities with the concept of harnessing mold to inhibit bacterial growth. It predated Alexander Fleming's discovery of penicillin by centuries, reflecting early empirical use of microbial agents in medicine. According to population estimates, there are more plastic flamingos than real ones in the world. The artificial model, originally designed by Don Featherstone in 1957, has become a widely manufactured lawn ornament. In contrast, global wild flamingo populations, across species like Phenacopterus roseus and Phenacopsis ruber, total under 5 million. Mass production of the synthetic version has surpassed the biological count, creating a notable reversal in real-to-fake species presence. A 2005 study published in the Journal of Experimental Biology found that honeybees can recognize and differentiate human faces. Researchers trained bees to associate facial images with rewards and documented that the insects processed faces using a configural mechanism similar to human facial recognition software. Tomatoes were historically classified as poisonous in parts of 18th century Europe due to their inclusion in the Solanaceae family, which also contains toxic plants such as deadly nightshade. The fruit, often called poison apples, was suspected of causing illness when consumed from pewter plates, where tomato acidity leached lead. The misconception persisted until widespread culinary adoption in the 19th century confirmed their edibility and agricultural value. According to Guinness World Records, the longest wedding veil measured over 23,000 feet, specifically 23,993 feet and 6 inches. This veil, worn by Maria Paraskeva in Cyprus in 2018, was nearly 400 times her height. The veil's length required significant logistical coordination and surpassed the previous record by several kilometers, setting a benchmark in textile length for ceremonial garments. A widely discussed theory in planetary science proposes that Earth once had 2 moons. This hypothesis, known as the double moon theory, suggests that a smaller satellite collided with the larger moon approximately 4 billion years ago. The impact is believed to have created the lunar highlands, known today as the moon's far side. The model remains hypothetical, but is supported by simulations and geochemical analysis of lunar rock asymmetry. The blobfish maintains structural integrity in deep-sea environments due to extreme external pressure. At depths exceeding 600 meters, its gelatinous body is neutrally buoyant without the need for a swim bladder. When removed from that pressure, its tissues deform, resulting in a collapsed, amorphous appearance. The species' external form is therefore a function of bathyal zone adaptation rather than its actual biological anatomy. Ray Tomlinson sent the first electronic mail in 1971 between 2 ARPANET-connected machines. He used the @ symbol to separate the username from the host, creating the standard email format still in use today. The content of the test message was nonsensical, something like QWERTYUIOP, and served only to verify functionality. Tomlinson's work marked the beginning of digital interpersonal communication. Following the 1994 Northridge earthquake in Los Angeles, emergency services received numerous reports of an unusual silver cloud seen in the night sky. This phenomenon was later identified as the Milky Way galaxy. Due to extensive urban light pollution, many residents had never seen it before. The temporary blackout allowed for rare visibility of celestial objects, highlighting the extent of artificial sky glow in metropolitan areas. The term D-Day does not refer to a specific word, but serves as a placeholder in military planning to denote the launch date of an operation. Used in Allied documentation as early as World War I, it gained prominence with the Normandy landings on June 6, 1944. In military scheduling, D marks the day, while preceding or following days are labeled as D- or D+. Birds do not urinate in the conventional mammalian sense. Instead, they excrete nitrogenous waste as uric acid, which is relatively insoluble and expelled as a white paste. This compound is combined with fecal matter and expelled through the cloaca. The adaptation conserves water, which is critical for flight-capable species, and results in the characteristic white droppings commonly seen on surfaces beneath bird perches. In the Middle Ages, it was widely believed that touching a toad would cause warts. This misconception likely arose from the presence of wart-like glands on the toad's skin, particularly the parotoid glands. Despite lacking scientific basis, the belief persisted for centuries and remains part of modern folklore. Warts are caused by the human papillomavirus and are not transmitted through amphibian contact. Certain species of starfish, such as Lynchia multifora, exhibit complete regenerative capabilities. If a single arm contains part of the central disc, it can regenerate into a full organism. This form of asexual reproduction, known as fissiparity, has been documented in both wild and laboratory conditions, particularly in tropical marine environments. The average human, based on a daily walking estimate of 8,000 steps and a lifespan of approximately 80 years, will walk a total of around 184,000 kilometers. This distance is roughly equivalent to circumnavigating Earth 5 times along the equator, which measures about 40,075 kilometers. Volatile aromatic compounds in vanilla, particularly vanillin, have been shown to activate the limbic system in the brain. Functional MRI studies indicate a neurological response associated with mood and memory regulation. This physiological effect is attributed to the olfactory pathway's direct access to the amygdala and hippocampus, bypassing the thalamus. Records from ancient Rome indicate the use of crushed mouse brains in dental care. This material was mixed with other substances to create early toothpaste formulations. The practice was documented in medical texts attributed to Roman physicians such as Scribonius Largus during the 1st century, reflecting limited knowledge of hygiene and microbial disease. The pistol shrimp generates a high-velocity snap by closing its claw, creating a cavitation bubble that reaches temperatures exceeding 10,000 Kelvin. This temperature is comparable to the surface of the sun. The phenomenon produces a shock wave strong enough to stun or kill nearby prey and has been studied for its potential in underwater acoustics. The English word rhythms is considered the longest common word without any of the 5 traditional vowels A, E, I, O, U. It consists entirely of consonants and the letter Y, which functions as a vowel in this context. The term is used in both musical and biological contexts and contains 7 letters. Saturn's moon Titan, first visited by the Huygens probe in 2005, has surface lakes composed primarily of liquid methane and ethane. These hydrocarbon reservoirs exist due to Titan's surface temperatures, which average approximately 94 Kelvin. The lakes are concentrated near the moon's polar regions and are part of a methane-based hydrological cycle. The Anglo-Zanzibar War occurred on August 27, 1896. Hostilities began at 9 in the morning and ended at 9:38, making it the shortest recorded war in history. The British forces bombarded the Sultan's palace, resulting in over 500 casualties on the Zanzibari side. British losses were limited to 1 wounded sailor. The sound effect used for Darth Vader's breathing in the Star Wars films was created using a scuba regulator. Sound designer Ben Burt recorded the noise by placing a microphone inside a diving mask and connecting it to a rebreather. The effect debuted in the original film, released in 1977. Sharks possess a cartilaginous skeleton composed entirely of connective tissue rather than bone. This anatomical structure is lighter and more flexible than osseous material, enabling buoyancy and agility. Species across the subclass Elasmobranchi, including great white and hammerhead sharks, demonstrate this adaptation, which distinguishes them from bony fish in the class Osteichthyes. In Japan, the Naki Sumo Festival involves sumo wrestlers holding infants and encouraging them to cry. The event is based on the traditional belief that a crying child is healthy and will be protected from evil spirits. The practice is centuries old and continues to be observed annually at temples such as the Sensoji Temple in Tokyo. Apples float in water due to internal air pockets, which make up approximately 25% of the fruit's volume. This characteristic results in a lower average density than water, causing buoyancy. The phenomenon is commonly observed during recreational activities such as apple bobbing. The original oranges, particularly the Southeast Asian variety known as Citrus reticulata, were green in color. These early cultivars maintained their chlorophyll pigmentation in warmer climates. The orange hue commonly associated with the fruit emerged through hybridization and exposure to cooler temperatures, which reduce chlorophyll levels and reveal carotenoid pigments. The Great Fire of London began on September 2, 1666, in a bakery on Pudding Lane. The fire lasted 4 days, destroying over 13,000 buildings, including St. Paul's Cathedral. Despite the extensive structural damage, only 6 deaths were officially recorded, although the actual number may have been higher due to undocumented casualties. On August 15, 1977, a radio signal later termed the "Wow signal" was detected by Dr. Jerry R. Eman using Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope. The signal lasted 72 seconds and originated from the constellation Sagittarius. It has never been observed again and remains unexplained despite multiple subsequent search efforts. The term spaghettification refers to the theoretical process that occurs near a black hole's event horizon where tidal forces stretch matter into elongated shapes. This occurs due to the gravitational gradient between the object's near and far sides. The concept is derived from general relativity and has been described in academic works on black hole physics. Certain species of frogs, such as the wood frog, can survive sub-zero temperatures by entering a state of suspended animation. During winter, their bodies freeze, and metabolic activity ceases. They thaw in spring and resume normal function. This adaptation is facilitated by high concentrations of glucose and urea acting as cryoprotectants. Fred Bohr, the food scientist who developed the iconic Pringles can in the 1960s, requested that a portion of his ashes be buried in one after his death in 2008. His family honored the request, placing the can in the burial plot along with a traditional urn. The can was an original red Pringles container. The human stomach regenerates its epithelial lining approximately every 3 to 5 days. This rapid cellular turnover prevents the stomach from digesting itself, as gastric acid contains hydrochloric acid with a pH as low as 1.5. The mucosal barrier, composed of bicarbonate-rich mucus and tight junctions between epithelial cells, plays a critical role in maintaining the integrity of the stomach wall under constant chemical exposure. The original version of Monopoly, designed by Lizzie Magie in 1903, was called the Landlord's Game. It aimed to demonstrate the negative aspects of wealth concentration and monopolistic practices. The game contrasted two rule sets, one promoting cooperation and the other rewarding monopolies. Charles Darrow later commercialized a modified version through Parker Brothers in 1935, removing the original socio-economic critique. The number of possible legal chess positions is estimated to exceed 10 to the power of 120, a figure known as the Shannon number. By contrast, estimates place the number of atoms in the observable universe at roughly 10 to the power of 80. This combinatorial complexity arises from the game's 20 initial possible first moves and exponential variation with each subsequent turn. In 2015, Dr. J. Calvin Coffey and colleagues at the University of Limerick reclassified the mesentery as a continuous organ in the human digestive system. Previously considered fragmented structures, mesenteric folds were shown to form an uninterrupted tissue connecting the intestines to the abdominal wall. This finding, based on microscopic and imaging data, prompted updates to medical textbooks and anatomical classification systems. The term French fries refers to the culinary technique of Frenching, or cutting food into thin strips. The origin of the fried potato dish is commonly attributed to Belgium, where it was documented as early as the late 17th century. American soldiers during World War I popularized the term French fries after encountering the food in French-speaking regions of Belgium. Onions contain sulfur-containing compounds, primarily syn-propaneths oxide. When the onion's cell walls are disrupted, these molecules are released and converted by the enzyme alliinase into a volatile gas. Upon reaching the eyes, the gas reacts with water to form mild sulfuric acid, which irritates the lacrimal glands and triggers tear production as a defensive response. In ancient Egypt, written records and depictions suggest that honey was applied to the skin of servants to attract flies. This method functioned as a human decoy system to protect high-status individuals, including pharaohs, from insect irritation. Honey's high sugar content and viscosity made it an effective fly attractant in the arid climate of the Nile Valley. When a person experiences facial blushing due to vasodilation triggered by emotional stimuli, the same autonomic response extends to the stomach's inner lining. Blood vessels in the gastric mucosa also dilate, causing a reddening effect. This physiological response is controlled by the sympathetic nervous system and is part of the broader fight-or-flight mechanism. Slime molds, such as Physarum polycephalum, exhibit decentralized problem-solving abilities. In controlled experiments, they have successfully navigated mazes and replicated efficient networks, such as Japan's rail system. Their method relies on chemotactic movement and spatial memory through protoplasmic streaming, enabling them to optimize paths without a central nervous system, outperforming some computational algorithms in route efficiency. A Babylonian tablet from around 1500 BCE, housed in the British Museum, contains the oldest known example of a "your mother" insult. Written in Akkadian cuneiform, the line is partially damaged, but references humor involving a maternal subject. It demonstrates that structured, insult-based humor has existed for over 35 centuries in recorded human language. In Iceland, the tradition known as Jólabókaflóð, or Christmas book flood, involves giving books as gifts on December 24th. This cultural practice began during World War II, when paper was one of the few imports not rationed. The Icelandic publishing industry continues to release most of its annual book output in November and December to align with this national reading custom. The word clue originates from the Middle English term clue, meaning a ball of thread. Its modern figurative meaning traces back to the Greek myth of Theseus, who used a thread to navigate the labyrinth and escape after slaying the Minotaur. Over time, clue evolved into clue, signifying something that guides or solves a problem. The human body contains approximately 37 trillion cells, including red blood cells, epithelial cells, and neurons. In parallel, it hosts an estimated 39 trillion microbial organisms, mainly bacteria, within the gut microbiome. These microbial cells outnumber human cells and play essential roles in digestion, immunity, and metabolic regulation, particularly through the production of enzymes and short-chain fatty acids. Elephants detect seismic vibrations through mechanoreceptors located in their feet and trunk. These low-frequency ground signals, often generated by distant movements or vocalizations, are transmitted through the earth and interpreted by the animal's somatosensory system. Studies suggest elephants can detect vibrations from several kilometers away, aiding in navigation and herd communication. The Earth's inner core, composed primarily of iron and nickel, reaches temperatures estimated at approximately 6,000 degrees Celsius. This thermal estimate is based on experimental data from high-pressure studies and seismological models. Despite extreme heat, the inner core remains solid due to immense pressure exceeding 3 million atmospheres at the planet's center. Peanuts are classified botanically as legumes, not true nuts. They belong to the Fabaceae family and develop underground through geocarpy. In contrast, tree nuts like almonds or walnuts form from ovary walls of flowering plants. Peanuts share characteristics with other legumes, such as lentils and beans, including nitrogen-fixing root nodules. The heart of a hummingbird can beat more than 1,200 times per minute during flight. This exceptionally high rate supports the bird's intense metabolic demands while hovering or feeding. Species such as the ruby-throated hummingbird maintain elevated oxygen delivery through rapid circulation and specialized respiratory efficiency, allowing sustained wing movement at rates of over 50 beats per second in mid-air. Human bodies emit a faint glow, known as bioluminescence, though it is roughly 1,000 times too dim to be seen by the naked eye. This light results from chemical reactions involving free radicals and biomolecules such as lipids. In 2009, Japanese researchers used ultra-sensitive cameras to photograph this phenomenon, confirming that emission levels vary slightly over a 24-hour cycle and peak in the late afternoon. So if even tiny light emissions know how to show up on schedule, make sure you show up on my subscriber list. Hit that button before your glow fades away. Newborn humans typically do not produce visible tears for the first few weeks after birth. Although their lacrimal glands are present, they are not fully developed and do not produce the volume of liquid needed for tear overflow. Reflex tearing, which responds to irritation or emotion, usually begins between 2 to 3 weeks after birth, depending on individual variation and environmental conditions. While identical twins share identical DNA, their fingerprints are never exactly the same. The ridge patterns develop in utero through a combination of genetic and environmental factors, including pressure, blood flow, and amniotic movement. This means that even with shared genetic code, the fingerprints of monozygotic twins display small but measurable differences under forensic analysis. Estimates suggest that the average adult spends roughly 6 months of their life waiting at red traffic lights. This projection is based on cumulative daily commuting times in urban environments and assumes standard light cycles. While it varies by location and driving habits, the figure offers a useful approximation of how modern transportation infrastructure impacts time use. Because of the way the Gregorian calendar handles leap years, the weekday on which your birthday falls usually repeats every 6 years, but the interval can sometimes be 5, 7, or 11 years, depending on your birth date and the leap year pattern. This happens because leap years add an extra day every 4 years, causing the weekday of your birthday to shift in a predictable cycle over time. Well, maybe this goes over your head. It definitely did for me. Humming while holding the nose is physically impossible due to the mechanics of airflow. Humming requires continuous air resonance in the nasal passages, and pinching the nose closes off that space. Without a nasal outlet, the pressure buildup halts vibration, preventing sound generation. This is a simple example of how human vocalization depends on unobstructed anatomical structures. The word avocado originates from the Nahuatl term ahuacatl, which translates to testicle. The name likely refers to the fruit's shape and was adopted into Spanish during the colonial period. The Aztecs associated the fruit with fertility, and it was cultivated as early as 5000 BCE in regions that now include southern Mexico and Guatemala. Studies have shown that the scent of chocolate can increase theta brainwave activity, which is associated with states of relaxation and reduced stress. These effects have been observed using electroencephalography, EEG, a method that records electrical activity in the brain. The response may be linked to both olfactory stimulation and emotional associations formed through repeated exposure. The longest documented flight of a chicken lasted approximately 13 seconds and covered a distance of over 90 meters. This record, though limited compared to most bird species, highlights the capacity for short bursts of powered flight in certain breeds. Most domesticated chickens are selectively bred for meat or egg production, which limits their aerodynamic abilities. Young elephants often suck their trunks for comfort, a behavior similar to human infants sucking their thumbs. This action helps soothe them and may assist in sensory development. Trunk sucking has been observed in both wild and captive populations and generally decreases as the calf matures and gains better trunk control for feeding and interaction. As of recent estimates, there are more public libraries than McDonald's restaurants in the United States. Data from the American Library Association indicates over 16,000 public library locations compared to roughly 13,000 fast food outlets. Libraries serve as community resources, offering free access to books, internet, and educational programs across urban and rural areas. The human nose is capable of detecting over 1 trillion different scents, based on a 2014 study published in Science. This estimate significantly exceeds earlier beliefs that the nose could detect around 10,000 odors. The olfactory system uses roughly 400 active receptor types, each interacting with multiple odor molecules through complex combinatorial coding. Armillaria ostoyi, a species of honey fungus located in Oregon's Malheur National Forest, is currently considered the largest living organism by area. The underground mycelial network spans nearly 4 square miles and is genetically identical throughout. Estimated to be thousands of years old, this fungus lives symbiotically with trees, sometimes contributing to root rot in forest ecosystems. Although the human brain makes up only about 2% of total body mass, it consumes roughly 20% of the body's energy. This high energy demand supports continuous electrical activity, neurotransmitter synthesis, and metabolic functions. The majority of this energy is used for signaling between neurons, especially in regions involved in decision-making, memory, and perception. On Saturn's moon Enceladus, high-velocity geysers eject water vapor and ice particles from a subterranean ocean through surface fractures near the South Pole. First observed by the Cassini spacecraft in 2005, these plumes contain organic compounds and molecular hydrogen. NASA has since listed Enceladus as a candidate for extraterrestrial microbial life, pending, of course, a very long-distance confirmation. The Great Wall of China is not, in fact, a single continuous structure. It consists of multiple segments built by various dynasties between the 7th century BCE and the 17th century CE. Spanning over 21,000 kilometers, much of the wall now exists in fragments, making it perhaps the least unified structure in history. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station orbit Earth every 92 minutes, resulting in roughly 16 sunrises and 16 sunsets per 24-hour terrestrial day. The phenomenon is caused by orbital velocity, not poor scheduling. Window blinds are provided. Some leafcutter ants, such as those from the genus Atta, cultivate fungal gardens underground and apply naturally derived antimicrobial secretions to prevent contamination. The practice predates human agriculture by tens of millions of years and includes compartmentalized waste zones. The ants have not yet developed crop rotation. Vikings are believed to have used birefringent crystals known as sunstones to locate the sun's position under overcast skies. These calcite or cordierite stones functioned by polarizing light, serving as a navigational aid in the absence of actual sunlight. This technique, discovered centuries before GPS, did not require satellites, only an appropriately cloudy sky. Elephants have passed the mirror self-recognition test, indicating a level of cognitive self-awareness. In one study, elephants touched visible markings on their own bodies while looking in a mirror. The test, originally developed for primates, has so far failed to interest cats. A cat's purr generates vibrations between 20 and 140 Hz, a frequency range associated with bone and soft tissue regeneration in mammals. Some researchers have speculated that this acoustic feature may have therapeutic applications for humans, assuming the patient is willing to be purred on. The mantis shrimp employs a spring-loaded appendage to deliver strikes reaching speeds of 80 kilometers per hour. The impact generates cavitation bubbles that momentarily produce temperatures hotter than the sun's surface. It also sees ultraviolet and polarized light. The shrimp, not the sun. Tomatoes contain approximately 31,000 genes, exceeding the human genome by roughly 11,000. This includes sequences responsible for traits like fruit shape, color, and flavor. The fruit does not appear to use its surplus for moral introspection. A typical cumulus cloud contains about 500,000 kilograms of water, equivalent to roughly 800,000 standard bathtubs. Fortunately, it does not fall all at once. Atmospheric physics remains grateful. Sea otters often store a preferred rock in a skin fold beneath their forearms and reuse it to break open shellfish. The tool is carried, hidden, and regularly used, placing it in a small but committed category of personal belongings among marine mammals. The ancient city of Troy, long dismissed as myth, was excavated in the 1870s by Heinrich Schliemann in what is now northwestern Turkey. Layered ruins revealed a history consistent with Homeric descriptions, suggesting that the line between epic poetry and archaeology may be thinner than previously assumed. Zebras have black skin and grow white stripes due to pigment-inhibiting mechanisms in specific hair follicles. Embryological studies confirm the base coat is black, meaning the stripes are technically an absence of color, rendering the zebra the world's most elaborately unpainted horse. The Mariana Trench, located in the western Pacific Ocean, contains the deepest known natural point in Earth's seabed, known as the Challenger Deep. This point reaches an approximate depth of 10,984 meters, based on measurements recorded by the DSV limiting factor in 2019. By comparison, Mount Everest has a height of 8,848 meters, making the trench significantly deeper than the mountain is tall. In 2022, researchers at the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel, led by Dr. Jacob Hanna, developed synthetic mouse embryos using only pluripotent stem cells. The process excluded the use of fertilized eggs, sperm cells, or a uterus. The engineered embryos exhibited early organ development, including a neural tube and beating heart, and survived up to 8.5 days in an artificial womb, marking a significant advancement in synthetic embryology. During the medieval period in Europe, bestiaries, illustrated compendiums of animals, propagated the myth that beavers would sever and discard their testicles to escape hunters. This belief, first recorded in classical antiquity, was based on the erroneous notion that beaver castoreum glands, located near the tail, were testicles and highly sought for medicinal use. No empirical evidence supports the behavior. Olfactory studies indicate that the aroma of cinnamon enhances cognitive performance. Controlled trials have shown improvements in working memory, attention, and visual motor response speed. These effects are attributed to the stimulation of brain regions, such as the hippocampus and frontal cortex, as observed in neuroimaging and electrophysiological assessments. Some observational studies have suggested that certain bat species may show directional preferences when exiting their roosts, but there is no consistent or universal pattern, such as always turning left, across all bat species. The reasons for any observed directional bias remain unclear and may involve factors like roost structure, environmental cues, or species-specific behaviors. More controlled experimental research is needed to determine whether such preferences are widespread or significant within the order Chiroptera. In microgravity environments, such as those aboard the International Space Station, combustion behaves differently due to the absence of buoyancy-driven convection. Flames assume spherical shapes because heated gases do not rise, and the flame envelope is sustained by the slow diffusion of oxygen. This phenomenon has been documented in NASA's flame extinguishment experiment and informs spacecraft fire safety protocols. Before the invention of rubber-based erasers in the late 18th century, individuals commonly used pieces of crustless bread as an abrasive to remove graphite marks from paper. The bread was compressed and dried to increase firmness. Edward Nairn is credited with commercializing the rubber eraser in 1770 after discovering its efficacy as a substitute for bread. Toilet paper is believed to have been first produced in China during the late 9th century. Historical records from around 875 AD mention the use of paper specifically for hygiene purposes in the Tang dynasty. While other cultures used materials like wool, leaves, or water, China was the earliest known civilization to manufacture paper products intended solely for personal sanitation. The precise burial site of Genghis Khan remains undetermined. Historical sources from the 13th century describe secretive burial procedures, reportedly involving the execution of laborers to maintain confidentiality. Archaeological surveys, including satellite imaging and ground-penetrating radar, have yet to confirm the tomb's location. The legend persists largely through oral traditions and unverified historical texts. The average lightning bolt reaches temperatures of approximately 30,000 Kelvin. This thermal energy exceeds the estimated surface temperature of the Sun, which is around 5,778 Kelvin. The extreme heat results from rapid ionization of air molecules during the discharge, producing a plasma channel visible as a lightning flash. Experimental studies have demonstrated that pigeons possess advanced visual discrimination capabilities. In controlled settings, pigeons have successfully identified all 26 letters of the English alphabet and distinguished between human faces. These findings indicate robust pattern recognition and memory faculties, placing pigeons among the more cognitively complex avian species. Gallium, a post-transition metal with atomic number 31, has a melting point of 29.76 Celsius, which is below average human body temperature. When held in the hand, gallium transitions from solid to liquid phase due to thermal conductivity. This property is used in low melting point alloys and semiconductor applications. Constructed from copper sheets approximately 2.4 millimeters thick, the Statue of Liberty initially exhibited the metal's characteristic reddish-brown color following its completion in 1886. Over time, exposure to air and moisture induced oxidation and the formation of a green patina composed primarily of copper carbonate. This layer provides protection against further corrosion. It would take nearly 2 million mosquito bites to drain 2 liters of blood from a human body. Since a single mosquito removes only about 5 microliters of blood per bite, reaching that dangerous volume would require a massive number of bites. 2 liters is considered a critical loss and can cause severe medical emergencies, including hypovolemic shock. Twister was among the first films ever released on DVD, marking a shift in home entertainment formats, when it debuted in 1996. The launch helped establish DVD as a mainstream distribution medium, offering improved video and audio quality over VHS tapes. This milestone set the stage for the widespread transition to digital video media in the early 2000s. Roughly 205,000 metric tons of gold have been mined throughout all of recorded history. If all of it were melted down and shaped into a solid cube, that cube would measure approximately 22 meters along each edge. The Internal Revenue Service in the United States does not typically process single checks exceeding $100 million. If someone owes more than that, they must split the amount into multiple checks or use an electronic payment system such as wire transfer. This policy exists to reduce processing issues and enhance transaction security at such high payment levels. Fox tossing was a real competitive activity in 17th and 18th century Europe, especially in regions like Saxony. Participants used slings to hurl live foxes into the air for both distance and height, often during aristocratic festivals. Injuries and fatalities among the animals were common, but the practice was socially accepted at the time, despite its cruelty by modern standards. The durian fruit, grown in Southeast Asian countries such as Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand, is infamous for its strong and often unpleasant odor. Its smell has been likened to sewage, spoiled onions, or gym socks, leading to bans in hotels and public transport. Despite this, durian remains a culturally significant and highly prized fruit in local cuisines. That's it for this one. No clickbait, no distractions, just real facts you won't hear in most places. If even one of them made you pause or think differently, this video did its job. More are on the way. Smarter, sharper, and always backed by reality. Until then, thanks for watching, and stay curious.
They found a 240-million-year-old mushroom, fossilized inside ancient lava. That's right, fungi from the dinosaur era. And if you think that's strange, there's a lake in Canada that turns into polka dots every summer. Here are 189 facts that will question your everyday thinking.
So many questions. Why is the world spinning? Why is the moon keeping its orbit? Can rockets fly backwards? The facts you didn't know you needed. The Useless Show.
In East Greenland, scientists found a fossilized mushroom lodged inside volcanic rock, dated to around 240 million years ago. That's older than most dinosaurs. Fungi usually rot away too quickly to fossilize, so this specimen politely ignored protocol. It also suggests that mushrooms were quietly thriving while reptiles were just learning to roar. Toxoplasma gondii is a brain-hacking parasite that makes rats less afraid of cats. Yes, it rewires fear. In humans, the parasite doesn't make you love cats, but studies have linked it to subtle shifts in risk-taking behavior. Whether its cause or correlation is still being debated, presumably by scientists who don't own cats. Or do. The Sikilos epitaph is the oldest surviving full song, carved into marble sometime in the 1st century CE near Ephesus in modern-day Turkey. It includes both lyrics and musical notation, meaning you could literally sing it today, though the rhythm may sound like your ancient neighbor learning flute after retirement. The Himba people of Namibia use a deep red paste called oddities, made of butterfat and ochre, to shield their skin from sun and bugs. But it's not just skincare, it's a cultural emblem. The color represents earth, blood, and life. Think of it as sunscreen with ancestral Wi-Fi. NASA's Perseverance rover carries a small machine named MOXIE, which successfully turned Martian carbon dioxide into oxygen in 2021. This makes it the first machine to do planetary alchemy, turning Martian air into something breathable. MOXIE appropriately stands for Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment, because NASA loves long acronyms almost as much as space. The electric blue gecko of Tanzania, Lygodactylus williamsi, is as endangered as it is eye-catching. Males flash a vivid blue that dims with stress or poor conditions. Habitat loss and the illegal pet trade have nearly wiped them out, because apparently humans still believe rare and glowing means, I should put that in a glass box. The Nanhai 1, a Song Dynasty trading ship from the 12th century, was found buried in anaerobic mud off China's coast. Its cargo included over 60,000 porcelain pieces, perfectly preserved. It's basically a sunken time capsule of medieval commerce, minus the souvenir shop. Kudzu, a vine imported to the United States from Asia in the late 1800s to control soil erosion, now grows up to 30 centimeters per day and covers over 7 million acres across the American South. It's nicknamed the vine that ate the South, which is only slightly exaggerated. Unlike the original brochure, the Ramses II Peace Treaty, signed after the Battle of Kadesh around 1276 BCE, is the oldest known written peace treaty. It was inscribed in both Egyptian hieroglyphs and Akkadian cuneiform, basically ancient bilingual legalese. It included mutual defense clauses because even ancient empires agreed fighting is exhausting. In 15th century Samarkand, astronomer Ulugh Beg built an observatory with a 60-meter meridian arc, a sort of medieval telescope stand without the telescope. His star catalog, finished in 1437, remained one of the most accurate in the world until telescopes were invented 2 centuries later. Proof that some people peak well before their technology does. The California grunion exhibits a unique reproductive adaptation in which spawning occurs entirely outside aquatic environments. During nocturnal high tides, females deposit eggs into sandy beaches while males fertilize them externally. The Siljan Ring, located in central Sweden, is a confirmed impact structure formed approximately 375 million years ago during the Devonian period. With a diameter of over 50 kilometers, it ranks among the largest known craters in Europe. The post-impact basin was later filled with Paleozoic sedimentary deposits, making it a significant site for fossil research and hydrocarbon exploration. The Chitaliște, a uniquely Bulgarian cultural institution, originated during the mid-19th century and serves as a multifunctional hub, encompassing libraries, educational centers, and venues for the performing arts. These institutions played a critical role in the preservation of Bulgarian language and cultural identity during the Ottoman period, contributing to the development of national consciousness leading up to the Bulgarian national revival. The Banpo archaeological site, located near Xi'an in Shanxi Province, China, represents one of the earliest known examples of settled Neolithic village life. Dated to approximately 5000 BCE, the site includes semi-subterranean residential structures, communal kilns, storage facilities, and a defensive moat. It provides key evidence of early agricultural societies associated with the Yangshao culture. The capelin is a pelagic fish species whose spawning behavior involves synchronized mass strandings along subarctic shorelines. Reproduction occurs within the intertidal zone, where eggs are deposited in gravel substrates. These events support complex trophic interactions, attracting numerous avian and marine predators. Spawning is tightly regulated by water temperature and lunar phases. In 2003, researchers determined that the isotope bismuth-209, previously considered stable, undergoes alpha decay with an estimated half-life of approximately 1.9 times 10 to the power of 19 years, over 1 billion times the current estimated age of the universe. This decay was confirmed by a team at the Institut d'Astrophysique Spatiale in France, using highly sensitive detection instruments. The Asiatic wild dog, or tole, pack members use high-frequency vocalizations, including whistling calls to coordinate during pursuit. Unlike other canids, dholes rarely scavenge and are capable of subduing prey substantially larger than themselves, such as sambar deer, particularly in forested regions of South and Southeast Asia. The shells of Fulguraria species, belonging to the striking volute family of marine gastropods, are prized for their intricate beauty and distinctive patterns. While some marine mollusks are known to exhibit biofluorescence under ultraviolet light, this phenomenon has not been scientifically confirmed in Fulguraria. The Mofu ethnic communities of northern Cameroon have traditionally employed Phaidle megacephala, a species of black ant, as a biological control agent against termite infestations in grain storage structures. This practice represents a form of long-standing human-insect mutualism adapted to semi-arid agricultural systems. Ethno-entomological studies have documented its transmission through intergenerational knowledge systems. The Cook Swamp archaeological site in Papua New Guinea contains evidence of early wetland cultivation systems, dated to approximately 7000 before Common Era. Excavations reveal constructed drainage ditches, planting mounds, and remnants of cultivated taro and banana. The site provides crucial insight into independently evolved agricultural practices in Melanesian highland societies. In 2010, Researchers at Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee, in collaboration with Russian scientists at Dubna, synthesized element 117, known as tennessine. Its successful synthesis confirmed predictions regarding superheavy elements and contributed to the empirical mapping of the periodic table's island of stability. The extinct whale Basilosaurus isis, which lived during the late Eocene epoch approximately 40 million years ago, possessed vestigial hind limbs measuring up to 35 centimeters in length. Though functionally obsolete for locomotion, anatomical studies suggest these appendages may have facilitated mating. This supports the evolutionary principle that vestigial organs can retain secondary utility after the loss of their original function. Graphene, a synthetic carbon allotrope structurally related to graphene, was first synthesized in 2022 by researchers at the University of Colorado Boulder. Composed of sp and sp2 hybridized carbon atoms forming both single and triple bonds, graphene exhibits anisotropic electrical conductivity. The Y larva, or Y cyprid, is the larval form of a parasitic barnacle from the class Thacostraca. Following a free-swimming phase, it injects its body into a crustacean host, where it undergoes extreme morphological regression. It loses all non-reproductive organs, functioning exclusively as a gonadal parasite. In 2015, astronomers monitoring the star KIC 846-2852, popularly known as Tabby's star, recorded irregular dimming events up to 22% of total brightness. These fluctuations observed by the Kepler Space Telescope did not match patterns associated with planetary transits. Hypotheses range from circumstellar dust to theoretical megastructures, although no definitive cause has been confirmed. The Nebra sky disk, unearthed in Germany in 1999, dates to around 1600 BCE and is widely regarded as the oldest known visual representation of the night sky. Made of bronze with gold inlays, it depicts the sun, a crescent moon, and star clusters, including a group interpreted as the Pleiades. It suggests that Bronze Age Europeans were more sky-literate than some modern GPS users. In the 13th century, Persian polymath Nasir al-Din al-Tusi devised the Tusi couple, a geometric model where two circles rotate to produce linear motion. It offered a way to explain planetary motion without relying on Ptolemaic epicycles. The concept later found its way into Copernican astronomy, marking yet another historical moment where medieval mathematics quietly fixed someone else's system. The Byzantine hydraulis, first documented in the 3rd century BCE, was a water-powered pipe organ used in public arenas and ceremonial settings. As the earliest known keyboard instrument, it combined pressurized air with music, essentially an ancient fusion of plumbing and performance. You could say it made a splash long before organs echoed through Gothic cathedrals. Australia's ghost bat is one of the few bat species that regularly preys on other vertebrates. Equipped with powerful jaws and precision echolocation, it hunts frogs, birds, and sometimes even smaller bats. Despite the name, it doesn't haunt the living, unless you're a lizard with bad luck. In Nevada's Black Rock Desert, photosynthetic microbes live inside quartz rocks. These thin, translucent layers allow just enough light in for photosynthesis, while shielding the organisms from UV radiation and moisture loss. Essentially, it's microbial real estate with natural insulation and filtered skylights. The Book of Leinster, compiled in 12th century Ireland, is celebrated for its rich content on Irish mythology, genealogy, history, and poetry. While chess became popular in Europe much later, the Book of Leinster stands as one of the most important sources for medieval Irish culture and literature. Velvet worms possess slime-shooting glands that eject a sticky, fast-hardening substance to immobilize prey. Once the target is glued in place, the worm approaches to deliver a bite with sharp mandibles. It's a hunting method that combines glue guns and pincers, evolution's oddly specific take on pest control. Gastornis, a now extinct genus of large flightless birds from the Paleocene epoch, stood up to 2 meters tall. Despite their imposing beaks and stature, isotope studies of their fossils suggest a herbivorous diet. As it turns out, looking terrifying doesn't always make you a predator. Some just really commit to salads. Fire corals, though named like true corals, belong to the hydrozoan class and are more closely related to jellyfish. Their nematocysts can deliver painful stings capable of penetrating wetsuits. often surprising divers who mistake them for harmless reef builders. In short, looks like coral, stings like jelly. In 2014, researchers studying the male Antechinus, a small marsupial in Australia, discovered that during breeding season, males enter a relentless mating spree. They continue until their immune systems collapse and they die shortly after. A strategy evolution somehow greenlit. The phrase die trying has rarely been so biologically literal. Lothal, a city of the Indus Valley civilization located in present-day Gujarat, India, housed a rectangular dockyard dating to around 2400 BCE. Engineered with tidal water management in mind, it is among the earliest known examples of port infrastructure. Zebrafish possess a notable capacity for cardiac regeneration, capable of repairing up to 20% of heart tissue following injury. The process involves dedifferentiation of mature cells and subsequent cell proliferation. This regeneration model is under active study for potential applications in human heart therapies. The ginkgo tree, often referred to as a living fossil, has remained morphologically consistent for over 200 million years. It is the sole surviving species in the division Ginkgophyta, with fossilized specimens virtually identical to modern leaves. Its survival through multiple mass extinctions makes it one of evolution's least interested in updates. The deep-sea organism Xenoturbella, first described in the 20th century, lacks a brain, centralized nervous system, or organized reproductive organs. Despite its anatomical simplicity, genetic analysis has shown that it belongs near the base of the evolutionary lineage leading to complex animals. Its structure offers insights into early multicellular life and continues to prompt re-evaluation of how complexity arises in biology. Located in Lancashire, England, the singing ringing tree is a wind-powered sculpture constructed from galvanized steel pipes. Designed in 2006 by architects Mike Tonkin and Anna Liu, it emits low, harmonic tones when wind flows through its structure. Between 2012 and 2014, a group known only as Cicada 3301 released a series of highly complex online puzzles. These challenges involved cryptographic methods, literary references, prime number theory, and steganography. The true identity or purpose of the organization behind them has never been confirmed, though it continues to attract interest from cryptographers and internet historians. The fungus Massospora cicadina infects periodical cicadas, eventually destroying parts of the host's abdomen and replacing them with fungal spore masses. Despite the damage, infected cicadas continue to fly and attempt to mate, inadvertently dispersing spores. The fungus is highly specialized and appears to have evolved to synchronize with the insect's emergence cycles, which occur every 13 or 17 years. Diprotodon uptatum was the largest known marsupial to have lived, reaching lengths of up to 4 meters and weights similar to that of a modern hippopotamus. It belonged to the same family as wombats and koalas and lived during the Pleistocene epoch in Australia. Fossil evidence suggests it may have lived in herds and overlapped with early human populations. In Norse mythology, the goddess Idun was responsible for guarding golden apples that sustained the immortality of the gods. When she was taken from Asgard, the gods began to age, underscoring the idea that their longevity was maintained by an external, perishable resource. This motif of divine dependence is somewhat unusual in ancient mythologies. Volvox is a genus of colonial green algae in which thousands of individual cells form a spherical structure that can move through water using coordinated flagella. Within the colony, some cells are specialized for reproduction, while others manage locomotion, illustrating an early stage in the division of labor that characterizes multicellular organisms. The parasite Toxoplasma gondii completes its reproductive cycle in cats, but often uses rodents as intermediate hosts. In infected rodents, the parasite reduces aversion to feline odors, increasing the chance of predation and transmission. The mechanism appears to involve changes to the host's brain chemistry, and the organism remains a focus of behavioral and neurological studies. During the Edo period in Japan, samurai often wore chainmail garments called kusari katabira beneath their formal kimonos. These hidden armor pieces allowed for discreet protection without violating social expectations of appearance. They were especially useful in times of political unrest or for samurai in urban environments. The Trobriand Islanders in Papua New Guinea participate in a ceremonial exchange system known as the Kula Ring. Shell necklaces and armbands are passed between island communities in opposite circular routes. The lotus effect refers to the self-cleaning ability of lotus leaves, which repel water due to microscopic structures coated with hydrophobic wax. Water droplets roll off the surface, carrying dust and particles with them. This natural adaptation has inspired biomimetic designs in nanotechnology, particularly for surfaces that resist dirt and moisture. Printed in 1377 at Hungduk Temple in Korea, the Jikji is the oldest known book produced using movable metal type. It predates Gutenberg's Bible by 78 years and contains Buddhist teachings compiled by the monk Begun. The surviving copy is housed at the National Library of France and recognized by UNESCO's Memory of the World program. The moon milk found in limestone caves resembles soft, white cheese but is actually composed of microscopic carbonate crystals. Once mythologized, its origin is now linked to microbial activity. Bacteria help precipitate minerals, giving the substance its creamy texture. Not recommended for crackers despite appearances. The Jomon people of prehistoric Japan, active from about 14,000 BCE to 300 BCE, created the world's earliest known pottery. Their vessels featured complex, cord-marked designs and emerged long before agriculture. These artifacts suggest an unexpected flair for decorative ceramics among hunter-gatherers. In many early languages, there was no specific word for blue. The color was so rare that ancient Greeks described the sea as wine dark, reflecting its scarcity in nature. The sandfish skink of North Africa moves through sand using a swimming motion. High-speed imaging and X-rays reveal it undulates like a fish, reducing drag in granular material. Despite the name, it has no interest in actual swimming pools. Tardigrades produce a unique protein called DSUP, which binds to DNA and shields it from radiation damage. When introduced into human cells, it reduces DNA breakage by more than 40%. This resilience has inspired potential applications in biotechnology and space travel. Mexican jumping beans are seed pods occupied by the larvae of Cydia deschizziana moths. As the larvae react to heat by moving inside the pod, the bean appears to jump. This odd locomotion helps the insect avoid the desert's harshest sunspots, a quirky survival strategy. The south-pointing chariot of medieval China was a wheeled vehicle with a mechanical pointer that always indicated south, regardless of turns. It used early differential gears, demonstrating sophisticated engineering. Europe wouldn't rediscover similar mechanisms until many centuries later, minus the dramatic flair of a directional puppet. The trapjaw ant can snap its mandibles at up to 60 meters per second. This record-breaking speed allows it to capture prey or fling itself into the air to escape threats. Essentially, it has weaponized its face for both offense and acrobatics. A fossil forest in Cairo, New York, dating to around 385 million years ago, is the oldest known forest ecosystem. It featured early tree-like plants with shallow roots and offered critical insight into how plants first colonized land, fundamentally altering Earth's atmosphere and ecosystems. Japan's Rakuyo calendar divides each day into 6 types, assigning lucky or unlucky timings. Rooted in Buddhist cosmology, it's still used today to plan weddings, funerals, and store openings. Even in modern Tokyo, some business deals wait for the right planetary mood swing. The bat-eared fox has 48 teeth, more than any other terrestrial carnivore. Its oversized ears and unusual dental count are specialized for its diet of insects, primarily termites, making it nature's oddly proportioned exterminator. The bilby, a nocturnal marsupial native to Australia, digs extensive burrow systems with spiral entrances. These burrows help with soil aeration and seed dispersal, leading ecologists to label the bilby an ecological engineer, though without the hard hat or degree. The Aiken drum, housed in the British Museum, was recovered in Virginia and dates to the early 18th century. Made in West Africa, likely from Ghana, it is constructed of wood and deerskin. It is one of the oldest known African artifacts found in the Americas, providing physical evidence of the transatlantic slave trade's cultural transmission, with its form and material confirming West African drum-making traditions from the period of forced migration. Established in 1611 by Pope Paul V, the Vatican's secret archives span over 50 kilometers of shelving and store papal records dating back to the 8th century. Holdings include trial documents from Galileo Galilei's Inquisition proceedings in 1633, medieval diplomatic correspondence, and official papal bulls. Despite its name, access is granted only to qualified scholars, making it one of the most restricted historical repositories in Europe. The Burakumin of Japan are a caste group historically associated with occupations like tanning, slaughter, and corpse handling. Although ethnically Japanese, they were segregated under the Tokugawa shogunate and subjected to status-based discrimination until legal abolition in 1871. Modern investigations, including Japan's 2016 government survey, confirm that social stigma and employment discrimination against Burakumin communities persist despite over a century of legal equality. The Tachyglossus aculeatus, or short-beaked echidna, is one of only 5 extant monotreme species. It lays a single leathery egg directly into a maternal pouch. After hatching in about 10 days, the young remains in the pouch while feeding on milk, secreted through abdominal mammary glands, since monotremes lack nipples. This reproductive strategy reflects a unique evolutionary branch among mammals found in Australia and New Guinea. Constructed between 1977 and 1980 in Enewetak Atoll, the Runit Dome contains more than 3.5 million cubic feet of radioactive soil and debris from U.S. nuclear tests. Sealed beneath a 33-centimeter thick concrete cap, the site lacks a permanent containment lining. Studies by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Marshall Islands government cite rising sea levels as an increasing structural threat to the dome's integrity. The Quincan Rock Art of Queensland, located in the Laura Sandstone Basin, comprises over 300 sites dated up to 20,000 years old. Radiocarbon dating and pigment analysis confirm their antiquity, and they are listed on the Australian National Heritage Register for their cultural and archaeological value. In Irish mythology, the salmon of knowledge consumed hazelnuts that fell into the well of Sagais, gaining omniscience. The tale, preserved in 12th century manuscripts, tells how Fionn Macumhale gained wisdom by tasting the salmon's skin while cooking it for the poet Finn Eses. Between the 3rd and 7th centuries CE, the Aksumite Empire minted coins in both Ge'ez and Greek, making it the first sub-Saharan African polity to issue currency. The coins, primarily gold and silver, depict kings such as Endubes and Ezana, and were used in Red Sea and Mediterranean trade. Archaeological finds confirm coin circulation in regions as distant as India, evidencing Aksum's transcontinental economic reach. The Ajanta Caves in Maharashtra, India, number 29 rock-cut monuments dated between the 2nd century BCE and 6th century CE. Sponsored by Satavahana and Vakataka patrons, the Buddhist monasteries and chaityas contain murals that illustrate Jataka tales and early Indian devotional art. Pigment analysis identifies natural minerals like lapis lazuli and red ochre, marking Ajanta as one of the earliest surviving sites of complex wall painting in South Asia. The Penrose Stairs, an optical illusion of a continuously ascending staircase, was devised by Lionel Penrose and Roger Penrose in 1958. It visually violates Euclidean geometry, serving as a model in both perceptual psychology and mathematical paradox. The Bactrian language, historically used across Central Asia, is a rare instance of an Eastern Iranian language employing a modified form of the Greek alphabet. It served as the official administrative language of the Kushan Empire between the 1st and 4th centuries CE. The Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, located in the northwestern Pacific Ocean, constitutes one of the most seismically active subduction zones globally. This tectonic boundary results from the Pacific Plate subducting beneath the Okhotsk Plate and frequently produces megathrust earthquakes exceeding magnitude 8. The region is critical for geophysical studies of plate boundary dynamics and seismic risk assessment. The baiji, a freshwater dolphin species endemic to the Yangtze River, was declared functionally extinct in 2006, following an extensive survey led by the Yangtze Freshwater Dolphin Expedition. The species' extinction is attributed to industrial development, pollution, and increased river traffic. It was one of only 4 known freshwater dolphin species globally. The Garamantes civilization, which flourished in the Fezzan region of present-day Libya between the 5th century BCE and the 5th century CE, developed a gravity-fed irrigation infrastructure known as fogaras. These subterranean tunnel systems accessed fossil groundwater reserves beneath the Sahara Desert and enabled year-round agriculture in hyper-arid conditions. Their construction reflects advanced hydroengineering in ancient North Africa. In classical Athens, the system of kleronomia mandated that property remain within the familial oikos. In cases where a male citizen died without male heirs, his daughter, designated as an epikleros, was legally obligated to marry her nearest male relative. This mechanism ensured the continuity of property ownership within the patrilineal household. The Gomburtsev subglacial mountains, located beneath the East Antarctic ice sheet, were first identified during the Soviet Antarctic expedition in 1958 using seismic reflection techniques. Although comparable in scale to the European Alps, the range is buried beneath over 4 kilometers of ice. Its origin and persistence beneath glacial cover remain unresolved questions in geophysical research. The Ifa divination system of the Yoruba people employs a binary-based structure of 256 odu, each comprising multiple verses. These are preserved and transmitted orally by trained Babalawo priests. The pirarucu, native to the Amazon basin, is among the largest extant freshwater fish, reaching lengths exceeding 2 meters. It possesses ganoid scales capable of withstanding predatory bites from species such as piranhas. In addition to gill respiration, the species surfaces periodically to breathe air using a modified swim bladder that functions as a rudimentary lung. The Kangnido map, compiled in Korea in the year 1402 under the Joseon dynasty, integrates geographic information from Chinese and Islamic sources. Unlike contemporary European cartographic works, it includes representations of Africa, Europe, and the Middle East alongside East Asia. The map exemplifies the transmission of transcontinental geographic knowledge during the early 15th century. Marimo are filamentous green algae that form spherical aggregations in cold freshwater lakes, such as Lake Akan in Japan and Lake Mývatn in Iceland. These formations result from rotational movement induced by water currents, which promotes uniform photosynthetic exposure. Marimo growth is influenced by light, depth, and hydrodynamic conditions. Quick pause. If you're learning something new already, imagine what's still ahead. Hit like so the algorithm knows this is worth watching. The Aru Islands, located in eastern Indonesia, were part of the Sahul landmass during the late Pleistocene, when lower sea levels connected Australia and New Guinea. Archaeological findings indicate human occupation dating back more than 35,000 years. These sites support hypotheses regarding early coastal migration along submerged land bridges. The Lake Peigneur incident in Louisiana happened in 1980 when an oil drilling crew accidentally punctured a salt dome beneath the lake. This caused a massive whirlpool that drained the lake into a salt mine. 11 barges, a drilling platform, and surrounding land were pulled in, though remarkably no lives were lost during the collapse. Oldowan tools, which date back over 2.6 million years, are the earliest known examples of stone technology. Thought to be created by Homo habilis and possibly other early hominins, these tools include flakes and cores used for tasks like cutting animal tissue and breaking bones. They were first identified at Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania. The Sakoku Edict of 1635 formalized Japan's long-standing policy of seclusion under the Tokugawa shogunate. It prohibited Japanese citizens from leaving the country and strictly limited contact with foreign traders. The isolation lasted for over 2 centuries and shaped Japan's political and cultural development until the Meiji Restoration in the 19th century. Skladina Cave in Belgium provided a rare Neanderthal child's mandible dated to around 100,000 years ago, along with thousands of stone tools and animal remains. Isotopic analysis of dental enamel allowed researchers to reconstruct the child's diet and seasonal movements, offering direct insight into Neanderthal life and development in Upper Pleistocene Europe. The deep scattering layer, discovered during sonar testing in World War II, refers to a dense zone of marine life that reflects sound waves. It mainly consists of mesopelagic fish and plankton that migrate vertically in response to light. This daily movement, called diel vertical migration, significantly influences oceanic ecosystems and global carbon cycling. The right time delay paradox arises in gravitational lensing, where a massive object bends light from a distant source like a quasar. In certain configurations, photons traveling along different paths arrive at different times. This effect has been used to study mass distributions in galaxies and to place constraints on models of dark matter. Soviet military communication during the Cold War was protected by a wide array of advanced cryptographic systems. These included mechanical cipher machines such as the Fialka, which employed complex substitutions, transpositions, and military code books to secure classified information. Soviet cryptographers set global standards for cipher security in their era, and their innovations continue to inspire research in cryptography and secure communication. The Diderot effect refers to a behavioral pattern described by Denis Diderot in the 18th century. After acquiring a luxurious robe, he noticed a tendency to replace his other possessions to match its quality. This phenomenon illustrates how one new purchase can lead to a chain of additional acquisitions that reshape a person's consumption habits. Tristan da Cunha is a small volcanic island chain in the South Atlantic Ocean, located more than 2,000 kilometers from the nearest continent. With fewer than 300 residents, it is considered one of the most remote inhabited places on Earth. The islanders rely on local farming, fishing, and limited trade to maintain self-sufficiency. Lysenkoism, named after agronomist Trofim Lysenko, was an influential but flawed theory in Soviet biology during Stalin's rule. It rejected Mendelian genetics in favor of acquired traits shaped by environment. These views were promoted politically, leading to the suppression of genetic research and contributing to agricultural failures across the Soviet Union in the mid-20th century. Kandariya Mahadeva Temple in Khajuraho, built around the 11th century, is noted for its detailed sandstone carvings. Though often mentioned for its erotic imagery, most sculptures reflect cosmic themes and Shaivite symbolism. The temple's layout follows precise mathematical proportions, illustrating the connection between sacred geometry and divine architecture in central Indian temple design. Ferrofluid, created in the 1960s by NASA, consists of tiny magnetic particles suspended in a carrier fluid. It responds to magnetic fields by forming visible spikes while remaining liquid. Originally developed for moving fuel in zero gravity, it is now used in speaker dampers, medical devices. The Kavalan people of eastern Taiwan traditionally spoke a distinct Austronesian language, separate from nearby Formosan dialects. Due to assimilation policies during Japanese and later Chinese governance, their language nearly disappeared. In recent years, community-led efforts and educational programs have worked to document and revitalize the language for younger generations. The Kainji Dam, completed in Nigeria in 1968, created Lake Kainji as part of a large hydroelectric and irrigation project. While it increased regional power generation, it also displaced over 40,000 residents and disrupted downstream ecosystems. Fishing communities were particularly affected due to altered river flow and fish migration patterns. Luwian, an ancient Indo-European language of Anatolia, is known from both hieroglyphic and cuneiform texts. It was used by several post-Hittite states during the Late Bronze and Early Iron Ages. The longest known Anatolian inscription, found at the Bekoy site, is written in Luwian and provides insight into political and religious life in the region. The Radcliffe Wave is a large, undulating structure of gas and star-forming regions in the Milky Way, stretching over 9,000 light-years. Discovered in 2020 using Gaia Space Telescope data, it redefined the geometry of the galaxy's local arm. The wave contains major stellar nurseries such as Orion and Perseus. The London Hammer, often cited in fringe theories, was found in Texas embedded in a concretion of Ordovician rock. Geologists believe the hammer likely dates to the 19th century and became encased in mineral deposits over time. Limestone concretions can form rapidly under the right conditions, which explains how a modern object ended up inside. The Baekje incense burner, excavated in Nongsan-ri, South Korea in 1993, is a 6th century gilt bronze artifact exhibiting a synthesis of East Asian artistic traditions. Its surface contains iconographic elements including Taoist immortals, mythological fauna, and layered landscapes. The design reflects a symbolic cosmology comprising celestial, terrestrial, and underworld realms. The Langley Aerodrome, developed by physicist and aeronautical pioneer Samuel Pierpont Langley in 1903, was one of the earliest full-scale powered aircraft prototypes. Though it failed in 2 test flights on the Potomac River shortly before the Wright brothers' success, its lightweight steam engine demonstrated a thrust-to-weight ratio that later influenced engine design in early aviation engineering. The Chocho language, spoken by the Chocho people of Oaxaca, Mexico, is a critically endangered member of the Otomanguean language family. As of the early 21st century, fluent speakers number fewer than 50. Mount Nyiragongo, located in the Virunga Mountains of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, contains one of only a few persistent lava lakes globally. Its lava, characterized by low silica content, has exceptionally low viscosity, enabling flow velocities exceeding 60 kilometers per hour during eruptions. The volcano's activity poses continual risk to the city of Goma and surrounding areas. The Osiris resurrection narrative forms a foundational component of ancient Egyptian religious belief. According to funerary texts, Osiris was dismembered by Seth and subsequently reassembled by ISIS. This myth provided theological justification for mummification practices and articulated early conceptions of bodily resurrection. The Aleutian Trench is a convergent plate boundary where the Pacific Plate subducts beneath the North American Plate. It extends approximately 3,400 kilometers along the southern coast of Alaska. This subduction zone is capable of generating megathrust earthquakes exceeding magnitude 8, as evidenced by the 1964 Good Friday earthquake and the tsunami-genic events that have impacted both North American and Pacific Rim coastlines. Hiragana, one of the 3 scripts used in modern Japanese writing, originated from the simplification of Chinese characters known as Manyogana. It was primarily developed by aristocratic women during Japan's Heian period to facilitate vernacular literary expression. The script enabled the production of foundational Japanese texts, such as Murasaki Shikibu's Genji Monogatari. The Wakhan Corridor is a narrow geographic strip in northeastern Afghanistan, established by the Anglo-Russian Agreement of 1873 as a neutral buffer zone. It extends approximately 350 kilometers and remains one of the most inaccessible regions of Central Asia. The Giants Churches of Finland are megalithic stone structures dating to the Neolithic period, approximately 3000 BCE. Despite various hypotheses, ritual use, calendrical functions, or social gatherings, no definitive purpose has been confirmed through archaeological excavation or radiocarbon analysis. The Mazatec people of Oaxaca, Mexico, maintain ceremonial use of Psilocybe mexicana, a psychoactive mushroom species containing psilocybin. Their research contributed to the broader study of hallucinogenic fungi and catalyzed the emergence of ethnomycology as a formal scientific field. The Capone contamination incident occurred in Virginia during the 1970s due to the illegal release of chlordacone, a neurotoxic organochlorine pesticide, into the James River. The incident led to a fishing ban that lasted from 1975 to 1988. Public health concerns and ecological damage prompted significant revisions to U.S. environmental policy, including the Toxic Substances Control Act of 1976. The Tucano people of the northwest Amazon produce AG Negro, a fermented black sauce derived from cassava juice. The fermentation process spans over 30 days and utilizes indigenous fungal communities, producing a substance rich in glutamic acid. It exemplifies complex, spontaneous fermentation systems developed independently of Western microbiological frameworks. Pristella maxillaris, commonly referred to as the X-ray tetra, is a small freshwater fish native to South America. Its translucent tissues allow visibility of internal skeletal structures, making it a standard specimen in comparative vertebrate anatomy. The species exhibits high tolerance to fluctuating salinity and is classified within the family Caracridae. The Quipu system of the Inca Empire employed knotted cords for recording quantitative data, typically using base 10 positional values. Certain colonial-era examples suggest possible syntactic encoding beyond numeric values, raising hypotheses that Quipu may have functioned as a proto-writing system. The Isua Greenstone Belt in southwestern Greenland contains metamorphosed mafic volcanic rocks, dated to approximately 3.8 billion years old. Geochemical analyses, including isotopic fractionation of carbon-12 and carbon-13, suggest potential biogenic activity. These findings represent some of the earliest known geological evidence for life on Earth. The mola textile tradition of the Guna people in Panama involves hand-sewn reverse applique techniques, often using multiple fabric layers. The practice remains a central form of cultural expression and economic activity among Guna women. The ghost town of Kulmanskop in Namibia was once a booming diamond mining settlement, featuring European-style villas, a bowling alley, and even an ice factory in the middle of the desert. After diamond resources dwindled, it was abandoned in the 1950s and slowly reclaimed by sand, as if the desert itself was repossessing the real estate. The Rongorongo script of Easter Island remains one of the world's enduring linguistic mysteries. Written in a rare reverse Boustrophodon pattern, it consists of stylized glyphs possibly related to proto-writing. Simulu Island off the coast of Sumatra reported remarkably low casualties during the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Generations of oral tradition taught islanders to recognize signs of a smong, their term for tsunami, and to immediately flee uphill. The knowledge passed down since earlier tsunamis, likely saved thousands of lives that day. In 1973, astronauts aboard Skylab quietly took a stand, or more accurately, a nap. Overworked and under-autonomous, they shut off radio contact with NASA for a full day. This so-called Skylab mutiny didn't involve torches or barricades, just silence and rest, enough to prompt NASA to reconsider its scheduling policies for space missions. Al-Mutanabbi Street in Baghdad has been a cultural artery for centuries, known for its bookstores, publishers, and public debates. Despite bombings, censorship, and violence, it continues to operate, a living symbol of intellectual resistance in the heart of Iraq's capital. The Yunnan box turtle was thought extinct until the early 2000s, when a live specimen unexpectedly turned up in a pet market in China. With only a handful of confirmed individuals today, it ranks among the most critically endangered turtles in the world, proof that even extinction can be premature in rare cases. In the 19th century, the British East India Company built the Great Hedge of India, a 1,200-mile-long wall of thorny vegetation. Designed not for defense but to enforce salt taxes, it was so effective and inconvenient that history itself forgot it for a century. Today, it's remembered less for its size than for being possibly the world's least scenic checkpoint. The Yuchanyan Cave in Hunan Province contains pottery shards dated to around 18,000 years ago, among the oldest ever found. These early ceramics predate farming and suggest that hunter-gatherers, not settled agriculturalists, may have first developed pottery, possibly to cook or just to keep their leftovers fresher. In parts of Jodhpur, India, langurs are not only tolerated, they are revered. Believed to be sacred messengers of the deity Hanuman, these monkeys roam rooftops and markets with surprising social immunity. They're perhaps the only commuters in India who can jump queues without getting scolded. The Erewhong Temple in Sichuan Province was constructed during the Tang Dynasty using an ingenious timber frame design. With no nails or mortar, its wooden joints flex during earthquakes. A seismic safety feature built over a millennium before the modern Richter scale was even imagined. Donga is a Surma ritual stick-fighting tradition in Ethiopia used for conflict resolution and courtship. Fighters duel with carved wooden staffs in groups, demonstrating bravery and strength. The Liber Linteus, or Linen Book of Zagreb, is the longest known Etruscan text and the only one preserved on fabric, specifically reused as wrappings for a mummy. While the language remains largely undeciphered, the structure appears calendrical, offering rare insight into Etruscan religious timing and excellent ancient recycling. The Tama stone, now in the Louvre, is a 6th century BCE Aramaic inscription that mentions Nabonidus, the last Neo-Babylonian king. It confirms he spent about a decade in self-imposed exile in Arabia, the ancient equivalent of taking a very long sabbatical with no return ticket. The Kel Tajrart Akakus rock art, located in southwestern Libya, comprises petroglyphs and pictographs depicting giraffes, bovines, and human figures. These artworks provide archaeological evidence of environmental transition in North Africa, from a humid savanna biome to the present-day arid Sahara desert conditions. The Maunsel forts, constructed during the early 1940s, were anti-aircraft defense structures positioned in the Thames and Mersey estuaries to counter Luftwaffe attacks. Decommissioned post-war, the platforms were later used for offshore broadcasting during the pirate radio era, and influenced micronational experiments such as the self-declared Principality of Sealand, founded in 1967. The Turpan Depression, situated in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of China, reaches depths exceeding 150 meters below mean sea level. It is among the planet's deepest inland depressions and hosts ancient Karez systems, subterranean aqueducts designed to transport groundwater from distant mountain sources, enabling sustained agriculture in an otherwise hyper-arid region. The Mari Man, a geoglyph measuring over 4 kilometers in length, was discovered in the South Australian outback in 1998. Its origin remains unidentified, with no conclusive attribution to any artist or group. The method used to achieve its geometric precision at such a scale, possibly involving GPS, has not been definitively confirmed. The Armenian Gomper is a regional livestock guardian breed originating from the Armenian highlands. Distinct in its genotype from European Molosser breeds and Central Asian Ovcharka types, the Gomper has been utilized for centuries in transhumance practices, protecting flocks from apex predators such as Canis lupus and Ursus arctos in mountainous pastures. If someone you know loves random facts or thinks they know it all, send them this. Let's see how many they get right. The leptocephalus stage represents the larval phase of eels, during which individuals exhibit a transparent, laterally compressed morphology. This stage can persist for up to 3 years, enabling long-distance dispersal via major ocean currents. The Ardabal carpet, completed in 1539 CE in Safavid era Iran, contains an estimated 25 million hand-tied knots and measures over 10 meters in length. It includes a Persian inscription referencing its commission for the shrine of Sheikh Safi al-Din and is currently housed in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. The lunar crater Al-Biruni, located on the Moon's far side, was named by the International Astronomical Union in honor of Abu Rayhan al-Biruni, an 11th century polymath who accurately estimated Earth's circumference using trigonometric methods. The nomenclature reflects his substantial contributions to Islamic-era astronomy and geodesy. The Aksumite stelae of northern Ethiopia, carved from single granite blocks without evidence of iron tooling, reach heights up to 33 meters. These monolithic obelisks served as markers for elite burial sites and display intricate engravings mimicking multi-story architecture, representing a distinctive form of funerary expression within early African monumental traditions. Gentinck's Dweeker, first described in 1892 by Fredericus Anna Gentinck, is a rare ungulate endemic to the upper Guinean forests of West Africa. Its elusive behavior and fragmented habitat have limited field observations, and its conservation status remains endangered due to habitat loss and anthropogenic pressures. The Aitha Undersea Restaurant, inaugurated in 2005 within the Conrad Maldives Rangali Island Resort, is positioned 5 meters beneath sea level, enclosed in transparent acrylic panels designed to withstand hydrostatic pressure and saltwater degradation. It was the first publicly accessible underwater dining venue and remains a significant engineering achievement in underwater architecture. The Podziric carpet, recovered from a Scythian burial mound in the Altai Mountains by archaeologist Sergei Rudenko in 1949, dates to the 5th century BCE. Preserved in permafrost, it is the oldest extant knotted carpet, with complex zoomorphic motifs and a symmetrical double border structure analogous to later Persian textile patterns. The Javan rhinoceros, classified as critically endangered by the IUCN, is confined to Ujung Kulon National Park in western Java, with an estimated population below 80 individuals. Unlike its African counterparts, it possesses a single nasal horn and inhabits tropical rainforest ecosystems rather than savanna habitats. The Antarctic Circumpolar Current is the only major oceanic current that encircles the globe unobstructed by continental landmasses. Flowing from west to east around Antarctica, it facilitates the exchange of water masses among the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans, and plays a central role in global thermohaline circulation and climate regulation. The Banggai cardinal fish, found only in a small group of Indonesian islands, was formally documented by scientists in the 20th century. Unusually, it does not pass through a larval stage, instead developing directly into a juvenile. This rare trait in marine fish, along with heavy collection for aquariums, has made the species increasingly vulnerable. The Alhambra Decree, issued in 1492, required Jews in Spain to convert to Christianity or leave the country. Many chose exile, leading to the dispersal of Sephardic Jewish communities across regions such as North Africa, the Ottoman Empire, and southern Europe. The Batek, an indigenous group in Malaysia, follow an immediate return foraging system, consuming food shortly after it is collected. The system supports cooperation and equal access to resources, especially in their rainforest environment. Excavations in the Taban caves of Palawan, Philippines, have revealed human remains estimated to be over 47,000 years old. These finds represent some of the earliest evidence of Homo sapiens in Southeast Asia. The site also contains later Neolithic artifacts, including burial jars and stone tools, suggesting long-term human presence. Lake Tanganyika's sardine fishery primarily targets a species called Stolothrissa tanganyikai, a small pelagic fish adapted to freshwater. The lake's age and depth support high biodiversity, but changes in temperature and water layering can disrupt these fisheries. This makes the ecosystem sensitive to long-term climatic shifts and fishing pressure. In Vedic tradition, the Ashvamedha was a royal ritual involving a consecrated horse allowed to wander freely for a year. If no one challenged its path, The territory it crossed was symbolically claimed by the sponsor king. If opposed, the king's army responded, making it both a spiritual and political declaration. The hypogeum of Halsaflieni in Malta is a prehistoric subterranean complex dating back to about 3600 BCE. Among its chambers, the so-called Oracle Room stands out for its acoustic effects. In Rome, the Capuchin crypts beneath the Church of Santa Maria della Concezione contain the bones of more than 4,000 friars. Arranged in decorative patterns and structures, these displays were created by monks in the 17th century. The site was intended as a visual reminder of mortality and the shortness of life. The Samhan confederacies existed in Korea before the rise of the Three Kingdoms. These included Mahan, Jinhan, and Byeonhan, each composed of multiple small polities led by chieftains. They controlled valuable iron resources and trade networks that played a role in shaping the political and economic foundations of later Korean kingdoms. The Rex robot, designed at the University of Michigan, uses 6 spring-loaded legs to move over uneven terrain. Unlike wheeled machines, its locomotion is inspired by the movements of insects and animals. It can operate in environments like rubble or loose soil, making it a potential tool for search and rescue or planetary missions. The Wari civilization, active in the Andean highlands from roughly 500 to 1000 CE, developed early infrastructure systems. Their roads connected administrative centers across diverse terrain, forming a precedent for the later Inca road network. These transport links were crucial for managing communication, trade, and resource movement. The Thinker of Chernavoda, a ceramic figure from the Hamangia culture of Neolithic southeastern Europe, dates to around the 5th millennium BCE. The seated posture, with the head resting on one hand, is often interpreted as contemplative. It is one of the earliest sculptural forms showing introspective or reflective human imagery. The Yenisei River in Siberia features petroglyphs on its cliffs and rocks, some over 4,000 years old. These carvings depict scenes such as deer, chariots, and hunting groups. Among the Ogu people in West Africa, Zongbedo figures serve as symbolic guardians of the night. These tall, grass-covered costumes spin during ceremonies and are said to reveal hidden crimes or wrongdoing. The Abydos king list, engraved on the walls of the Temple of Seti I, notably skips certain pharaohs such as Hatshepsut and Akhenaten. This was not an oversight, but a deliberate act of historical airbrushing. Ancient Egypt's version of editing the guest list after a messy reign. The pilgrim's flask, a flattened ceramic vessel with side handles, was a standard travel container in medieval Eurasia. These modest but durable flasks traveled vast distances across the Silk Road, quietly hydrating the global economy long before branded water bottles took over. The Lari language, spoken in southern Iran's Hormozgan province, belongs to the southwestern Iranian group, but shows notable Arabic influence. Despite its distinct grammar and vocabulary, the language is endangered. The theriac of Andromachus was a multi-ingredient medicinal paste dating back to Roman times. Containing up to 60 items including opium, myrrh, and powdered viper, it was basically a pharmaceutical buffet meant to cure everything, or at least confuse the illness into leaving. The Jomon period of prehistoric Japan, beginning around 14,000 BCE, produced some of the earliest known pottery. Unlike later agricultural societies, Jomon communities were hunter-gatherers, suggesting that cooking soup came before planting rice. The Hoan Kiem turtle, a large soft-shell species native to Vietnam, was entwined with the legend of Emperor Lê Loi returning a magical sword to the lake. The final known individual died in 2016, marking both a biological and symbolic loss for the nation. The Jantar Mantar Observatory in Jaipur, constructed by Maharaja Jai Singh II in the 18th century, features the largest stone sundial on Earth. Built for naked-eye astronomy, it allowed precise measurements long before stargazing involved electricity or caffeine. The Suda, a Byzantine encyclopedia compiled in the 10th century, includes over 30,000 entries on ancient topics. Written in medieval Greek, it preserves fragments of otherwise lost classical texts, occasionally serving as the literary equivalent of a backup hard drive. The petrified forest of Lesbos originated from volcanic eruptions roughly 20 million years ago, which covered a subtropical forest in ash. The resulting mineralized trees remain upright, forming one of the world's most intact fossil forests from the Miocene epoch. The Keali crater field on Estonia's Saaremaa Island was formed by a meteorite impact between 4 and 8,000 years ago. Unusually for its era, the impact occurred in a populated region and may have contributed to local myths. As sudden planetary explosions often do, the lingua ignota, created by Hildegard of Bingen in the 12th century, is one of the earliest known constructed languages. Designed for spiritual communication, it included over 1,000 unique words. The Ostwald process, developed by Wilhelm Ostwald in 1902, involves converting ammonia to nitric acid through catalytic oxidation. It remains vital to fertilizer and explosive production, and earned Ostwald the Nobel Prize, plus an unintended legacy in wartime agriculture. The Handravali cave site in Karnataka, India, contains archaeological layers from the Iron Age through the Satavahana period. Roman coins discovered there suggest active trade between India and the Mediterranean, possibly including deals over pepper, pearls, and ancient profit margins. The Vela incident of 1979 involved a U.S. satellite detecting a double flash over the South Atlantic Ocean, consistent with a nuclear detonation. Though never officially confirmed, many analysts suspect it was a secret test conducted jointly by Israel and South Africa. The construction of the Cologne Cathedral commenced in the year 1248 and concluded in 1880, spanning a period of over 6 centuries. Despite the temporal gap, the structure adhered to its original Gothic architectural blueprints throughout. This continuity renders it a unique case of long-term adherence to medieval design principles within European ecclesiastical architecture. Spectrometric data collected by NASA's Cassini spacecraft during its flybys of Enceladus identified key components in the moon's cryovolcanic plumes, including molecular hydrogen, water vapor, and organic compounds. These findings support the presence of subsurface hydrothermal activity, indicating potential biochemical energy sources within Enceladus's ocean beneath its ice shell. The Gusuku archaeological sites of Okinawa, constructed between the 12th and 17th centuries by the Ryukyu Kingdom, consist of fortified stone structures made primarily from coral limestone. These sites exhibit architectural syncretism, incorporating elements from Japanese and Chinese construction techniques. Thermal inertia measurements of the lunar regolith, obtained during the Apollo missions, revealed extremely low values due to its fine-grained, porous composition. As a result, lunar surface temperatures experience extreme fluctuations, with daytime highs exceeding 100 degrees Celsius and nighttime lows falling below -100 degrees Celsius. The Lindo Man is a well-preserved Iron Age bog body discovered in Cheshire, England in 1984. Radiocarbon dating places. The individual in the 1st century CE forensic examination indicated violent death through strangulation, head trauma, and possible throat cutting, suggesting ritualistic killing consistent with known Celtic practices. Nummulites are large, coin-shaped foraminiferal fossils belonging to the order Rotulida, predominantly found in Eocene-aged limestone formations. These calcium carbonate-rich protozoan shells were used extensively in ancient Egyptian construction. Due to their uniform appearance, earlier theories mistakenly interpreted them as artificial objects rather than biological fossils. The Tangut script, employed by the Western Jia dynasty from the 11th to the 13th century, contains over 6,000 unique logographic symbols. The system is structurally unrelated to Chinese writing. The Armenian highlands tectonic activity results from the ongoing collision between the Arabian and Eurasian lithospheric plates. This convergent boundary produces high seismicity and significant crustal uplift, giving rise to one of Earth's youngest continental terrains, which includes active volcanic fields and intricate strike-slip fault systems. Tokugawa Tsunayoshi, who governed Japan during the Genroku era, issued the Edicts on Compassion for Living Things. These laws imposed legal protections for animals, particularly dogs, and allocated government resources to establish and maintain official shelters. Non-compliance was penalized by strict legal enforcement. Still with me? Then congratulations! Your brain has just survived 189 mental plot twists. So if you want your next scroll to actually make you smarter, you know where to find me.